Good evening. You're listening live to the Xtreme Movie Show. Tonight's film is going to be Austin Powers, International Man of Mystery. I'm your host, Rob, broadcasting to you from the Pine Hills Palace, just west of Orlando, Florida, in the Indian Hills Studios, we like to say. Of course, I'm with the real Dr. V, RDV, as we like to call him around here. Good evening, sir. How are you?
I am doing awesome. Fantastic.
We have a very first time ever here on the Xtreme Movie Show, and I know it's been about a year or so since we've launched. We're getting close to being monetized. We are actually attempting a comedy film. So we at the last minute said, hey, what about Austin Powers? And I haven't seen this film in a long time. Of course, a really popular trilogy that's grossed almost $1 billion when you can consider all three films. But yeah, for the very first one that came out in 1997, let's start with you instead of me this time and kind of talk a little bit about what we think, what's going on with this film and everything. So you go ahead and start. Let's change things up.
Like I said, this is the movie that gave me my crush on Elizabeth Hurley back in the day.
I can totally understand that, which I will definitely want to talk about some more.
This movie, it came out, 97?
Yes.
Right around there. It was in the early 90s. Or not early 90s, but late 90s.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, this is, I think I saw this. Oh, I saw this on VHS. Yeah, I got it from Blockbuster. I was still a little bit too young to go watch a rated R movie. Like I said, I watched this with my brother, and I grew up watching Saturday Night Live, so watching Mike Myers do stuff. I watched Wayne's World, and then watching this, it was like he's making fun of James Bond. So I'm like, it can't be that bad. I go to watch it, it's like, wow, it's actually funny.
Yeah.
I thought it was gonna be horrible. I thought it was gonna be like Man of Mystery, or not Man of Mystery, but Man of Disguise. Dan Kirby. No, this was actually hilarious. Just the very opening sequence. Entering warm liquid goose phase, evacuating where he's peeing. it was just stupid humor, and it worked. I thought this was Mike Myers at the top of his game. Of course, the second one wasn't as great. The third one was had its moments, but this was I've never seen this before from Mike Myers.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen him. We saw before this. We saw him, and So I Married an Axe Murderer. That was his big movies that he did. They're kind of flops, but yeah, this was actually, it's just funny. He's playing both roles. He's playing Dr. Evil, and he's playing Austin Powers. And what's hilarious is at the very beginning, it's like he goes the beat up, or confront Dr. Evil, but Dr. Evil, he's supposed to Blofart, escapes into this little thing. He's like, no, I'm going to basically get away, and it goes in there, and it turns out to be a freaking big boy.
Yeah.
It's a rocket ship. It's a big boy. I don't know what the poor cat, when he comes back, the cat's got no hair. It's Mr. Bigglesworth.
The whole thing is obviously it's a parody of spy films, basically James Bond. But to me, when I looked at this film and rewatched it, what I like about it is that it's harmless. And yeah, there's some juvenile stuff in here. And what I think is totally night and day is that there's a lot of things in this movie that are deliberate. You can see that they're building up to the joke, and I wasn't the biggest fan of it, but what I liked about it was that it was lighthearted. It wasn't like, one of these over the top, in your face, gratuitous kind of comedies or a smart comedy or whatever. It's just, if you know spy films, it's really, really funny, and if you're young, you can watch it. It's not vulgar. There's obviously a lot of sexual innuendo, which I think they dialed it down. And rewatching it today, I went, wow, could they make this movie today? And I know it sounds so stupid and so harmless, but at the time when this movie came out, everybody was quoting it. It was such a big deal, and people had so much fun with just having a film they could enjoy and say stupid things or like that. Like, that's not a woman, that's a man, baby. People just loved that stuff. And by the time the second film came out, everyone was just going crazy for it. And to me, I just go, it's a damn shame you can't even have a lighthearted comedy like this that's really, in my opinion, not offensive at all.
like you said, it was semi vulgar, but like in a funny way though. The fembots.
Well, you were a fan, or at least Angleton from I Love Comics was, when we talked about James Bond films briefly when we launched this channel. Big fans of, that whole British kind of spy thing from the early 60s. And in here, when we talk about this film, I go, God, it's immediately a James Bond ripoff. You could talk about Goldfinger, which is Goldmember, and of course other things in here. You could talk about some of the lines where he shoots with the harpoon in the club, him having sex with the woman with the sexy names, a lot of vagina. I mean, I'm trying to add the emphasis on the F so we don't get banned.
Yeah, no, right.
But to me, there's still like 3 or 4 lines in this film that I know when they're going to happen. I know the build up for them, but to this day I still think are funny. And I think there's several that kind of fall flat and I didn't like, but I actually thought the films got better. So to me, I appreciate the fact that he took something that was just a spoof of what he had and just built on it and threw things together. And I wasn't the biggest fan of Wayne's World. I wasn't the biggest fan of So I Married an Axe Murderer. He has his brand of comedy. And I think for him, he hit a home run for his style by doing this film. So if you like what you said, those films and that type of style, this is a perfect film for it. And it still is somewhat humorous today. It's not deep. It's not meant to be. And if you're a James Bond fan and you see, somebody making a successful comedy film, making fun of James Bond movies, I didn't get triggered at all. I actually thought it was pretty good because GoldenEye, I still don't think it's that good of a film, but it was a reboot and people were hungry for James Bond and The World Is Not Enough hadn't come out yet. So at this point, you're going, yeah, I can see where they're making fun of all the silly stuff that was in James Bond films. And to me, I don't think he was being negative about James Bond films at all. I think he was just poking out some of the funny things about him. And, in that way, kind of saying, hey, I'm just popularizing something that I really liked and enjoyed. So I hope that anybody watching this film doesn't get offended by any of it. But my goodness, it's got Liz Hurley in it too. I mean, you're right. Yeah, so let's talk about some of the jokes and some of the scenes. What do you remember? What was funny to you then that's still funny to you now?
Like I said, the very opening sequence right there is when he's like they're throwing him out. He's been frozen. After you see the freaking chest hair, it's like so gross. I like I said, like also when he meets Vanessa, he's like the Swedish home baby is larger. He's like, honestly, it's not my bag, baby. It's not my
Well, he's so harmless that all the stuff he's doing, that if this guy was like a really good looking leech and he was being an ass about it, everyone would get triggered, but that's one of the things about it. Mike Myers himself was so harmless that you go, okay, he can get away with talking about having a Swedish penis and large bump. I mean,
Seth Green playing him like his clone son they made from him. And it's like his DNA, so he give a son. And I love it. He's like, shh, knock knock, and he's like, who's there? Shh. But let me tell you a story about a man who shh, shh. Even before you start, there's a preemptive shh. Now I have a whole bag of shh with your name on it.
But see, that's not funny, but he's funny doing it, and so
exactly
really hit. Like the great one for me is like personally, I think some of the side casting was fantastic. Mustafa with Will Ferrell, he's great in it. Him dying, they drew that out way too far, but
he's like, I love what he says, like, that's Dr. Zeebel's cat. She's Vanessa's like, how can you tell? I never forget a pussy cat.
I know. So Robert Wagner is number 2, and I think he's just phenomenal with the eye patch and everything. And the scene where he's like going into the Vegas casino and they're playing blackjack, and he's got the eye patch laser vision, and he hits with the 4. 21, sir. I like to live dangerously. And then he's got like 5, and he goes, I'll stay. I do like to live dangerously. I mean, that to me is still one of the funniest things of the entire movie.
The scene where he goes in the bathroom and he's being the Irish guy with the Lucky Charms, like, and to get Tom Arnold. As much as I don't like this Tom Arnold, I thought it was still a funny scene. Tom Arnold, you all right there, buddy? How about extra flush in there? He's like, he's like, who does number 2 work for? he's like, he's sure that Turret's boss. Patty O'Brien, that's the guy's name. Yeah.
Yeah, and he has the thing of Lucky Charms, and they make fun of him. So yeah, they did a good job of having that just to throw him in there because it's kind of actually almost a slow film to me. Like it's not quick paced like some comedies are quick, 1, 2, 3, line set up jokes. This isn't. They're more scenes to me that you
they're
would
one
see
liner
like
zingers. Yeah, timing. Yeah, it's just on the timing route. It's just it's gonna be corny, but they're just so out of the world. Like when he goes and chop the guy, judo chop. It's like, judo chop.
All right, so Elizabeth Hurley's in this too. She was one of your early crushes, I know that. So go ahead and talk about her for a little bit.
Oh man, she was in a bunch of movies around this time. She went into Bedazzled after that too. Just former British model, actress, and most people say like, oh, whenever there's a model or anybody else, a celebrity, they're not used to being an actress, they're horrible. She actually was pretty decent in this. She played the Vanessa Kensington. She was supposed to be like his partner, team up, and I said like she was more the serious one at first. She thought he was disgusting, crude and stuff, and eventually, because it's a movie, but she's his love interest. She kind of, when he's on the plane and it's a spinning bed and he's like, "Do I make you ready, baby?" The whole thing is like, he's like, "Oops, I fell again." It's just, the scenes in this, like, she was actually pretty decent, and apparently Austin was dating her mother, or used to date.
Well, he had the hots for the mother, but
Yeah.
like in the scene that early on driving, it's like
Yeah.
he basically wants to bone her, and she's like, "Well, I don't think my husband will like that," and so it's supposed to show his actual "I really do care" side rather than just being complete, lech. Now, what I know about her is that in the '90s, all of a sudden, I heard this name, Hugh Grant. I'm like, I don't know who the hell this dude is. Don't really care. I actually liked a couple movies he did later on because I hadn't seen anything with him up to this point. And they were in a relationship for a very long time. So I'm like, oh, this is Hugh Grant's babe, because he'd gotten into some trouble getting a little side action, let's say.
Yeah.
And so all the stuff was, on the news at night, and I'm like, who cares? Somebody, having an affair or whatever. Yeah. Well, she stood by him actually for a bit.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't remember the stuff, and I don't really care. But the point is I go, oh, she's not a stick model. She's not too dainty. When you watching her film, she looks fit. She's a natural beauty. She doesn't have really, aquiline features like a big beak nose or this or that. She's just very gorgeous, and she's aged very well too. So I agree with you. To take a model and just throw them in a movie, her in a movie like this.
To be fair, she'd done some movies before this. She was in Passenger 57.
Yep.
She also did a TV series. She is an episode of the Young Indiana Jones Chronicles back in '92. So she's done some stuff,
Yeah.
Yeah. She after doing this, this is success. She was in a movie called Dangerous Ground. I don't think I've ever seen it before. Sounds familiar. But and she went on to do Bedazzled. That was her big movie. She did at TV. And that was okay, but she actually did a Wonder Woman TV movie. Oh, 2011. There was apparently a TV movie for that. And Gossip Girl. Ever since this, like, I pretty think this movie is what launched her career actually, because she was in My Favorite Martian. That was a remake, and then she went on to do the sequel for The Spy Who Shagged Me, which was, some people say, like, gets mixed reviews. Either it's great or it's horrible.
Right.
Yeah, but like I said, like, she could act. She's decent looking too. She really sold. She sold the role of being a British spy. MI6. Where he was an American pretending to be, or actually he's a Canadian pretending to be a British spy. But
she's so gorgeous, though it's distracting. It's like
it was, and that's
got a nice suit, but it's like I couldn't stop staring.
Like, that's what made it awesome about this movie, because, like, there's no way she'd end up with him. He's such a freaking he's a troll. and it's funny, because there was a thing in there where a lot of China, she'd come make love to you, hairy troll.
You hairy little troll, man. Yeah.
and I just love like the lines between this. Like when they're like when the guy got decapitated, he's like, between her and Austin is like, so he's like, not the time to lose one's head. She's like, no. He's like, that's not one way to get out of life. She's like, no. It's a shame he was more headstrong. He'll never be the head of my education. She's like, okay, that'll do. They leave. Like I said, she well complimented his role in being the hot babe because they're always a Bond girl. The Bond girls are always what drew people in more than Sean Connery or that stuff because he looked like good head. The names they had for these people, like although
Holly Goodhead.
Yeah, exactly. Without the Bond girls, I still say this: Bond wouldn't have been as great. He can because he was. You gotta have that. Gotta have that charm, or you gotta have that. That little bit of hint of, sensual. Sex in there. But
well, the thing with comedy is that I think you can have something where the material might be risque. You might have it be something juvenile, like there's Love in Here, and of course, it's mostly based off of Bond. So the thing that really comes across to me is that I really feel like Mike Myers enjoys doing what he's doing in here, and of course, he's playing both the roles or whatever. He's known for that. But I got to tell you, when this movie came out, like I say, this movie was so quotable, and everybody liked it because
definitely.
The James Bond fans out there like myself would talk about James Bond films, and if you're not a big James Bond film and you don't know the history and you haven't watched every film 50 gazillion times, then you don't get the thing about James Bond. Now James Bond movies for 15, 20 years now sucked. And so, a new generation of people of growing up on Bond that's been boring, that's missing out on all this kind of stuff that was made fun of in these Austin Powers films. So to be able to poke fun at those James Bond fans like myself, I think it's a stroke of genius. But also, like I say, if you're a young kid or person watching this, you can watch it not really know, okay, he's making fun of this particular movie, or You Only Live Twice was the scene for this, or, okay, he's got goofy names, but like to your point, that James Bond ladies used to be called that, then it's really accessible. And I think that mainstream attractiveness is what made it kind of popular. And it wasn't a huge, massive hit, but it was a very solid hit. It was one of those films where people would come out of the theater and say, hey, I just saw this and it's kind of stupid. He's making fun of Bond films. It's kind of funny. And to me, I kind of had to be dragged in there screaming. But the people that I know that had seen it were really like, no, it's actually kind of fun. It's kind of light. And we talk about having a very good action movie that's very digestible, that we can go into popcorn summer film that doesn't have to be deep, and come out and say, hey, this is a really fun film. I was entertained. I'm glad I saw it. To me, that's kind of the same thing we can say here about this comedy film. And unfortunately, when I think of great comedies, there's very few of them in the past 20 years. I think comedies at this point, from Austin Powers to now, have really declined in terms of their quality for lots of reasons. But to me, you can go, oh, what's the last greatest trilogy or series of comedy films with something? Well, I mean, obviously, Austin Powers jumps to the forefront because their lasting power. You could say something about like the Ron Burgundy films, which I happen to like. The second one's obviously not as good as the first, in my opinion, but it's a good film and it's a great character. And I love all the side characters. They're really fun, but it's really, really hard to sit there and say, yeah, well, here's a movie that's going to be so successful that they're going to have to squeeze out 2 more of them, finishing with Goldmember. Yeah, this thing was so iconic at the time because it just had that kind of word of mouth staying power that just, even to this day, you go, hey, you saw Austin Powers, right? Hey, yeah, I did, baby. So yeah,
it's to you, baby.
It is. Yeah, I mean, it's, look, you're talking Austin Powers. Do you think this is Mike Myers' best film?
I'd say it's up there. Like I said, I never cared for Shrek, and I think that's when his career went down because he went behind the scenes instead of being in front. He tried. I know he did try doing the other movie, The Love Guru, which I can still consider to be a flop. I don't know if it actually made money.
Which movie?
The Love Guru with Mike Myers.
It was a flop, I believe. Yeah,
it had to have been a flop because, like, unless I don't hear anybody ever bringing up anything when talking about Mike Myers. The first thing they bring up is either Wayne's World or they bring up this, Austin Powers. It's just funny because Mike Myers, when he was on Saturday Night Live, he's hilarious, and I love like arguably everyone would say like I love Wayne's World, but then they'll say like, well, I don't like the second one. I think the second one's funny as heck. You know, the naked Indian. You know, and he's like, you know, just put on the show. He's seeing Jim Morrison and all that crap.
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was funny, and you know, it's I still love it. He's like Cassandra. Oh, sorry, wrong wedding. There are scenes from that movie. I said so fun. It's like, have you seen this boy? Like you said, a lot of the stuff he does is quotable. Wayne's World is quotable. Austin Power is quotable. Even Goldmember, I thought like was
I love Goldmember.
I thought Goldmember was like the See, the way it does, Goldmember was better than The Spy Who Shagged Me. I thought The Spy Who Shagged Me was the weaker of the three films.
Mm-hmm.
And I just love the cast of Goldmember is basically the character. I thought that was actually a really decent character, and I love the interaction between him and like and Dr. Evil. You know, I don't really care. The whole Vern Troyer thing was kind of weird too. I think he was introduced this movie right towards the end, or the second one.
Well,
can't remember. It's I watched it a couple days ago.
I think it's in the second one.
Yeah, but
because Scott Evil, I don't think is in this one. In the second one, if I remember.
Scott's in the first one.
Well, the thing is, here's the big thing about these films, because in a way, you're right when you're talking about all three of them. That okay, this is the first one, so it can be hit or miss, and you can try to tweak and improve upon it. But I like the second one a lot too. But I think the third one, at this point on the third one, I feel like he's kind of so pissed off having to play this character, because everyone's like, shut up, go make me another Austin Powers. And that's all people wanted to see from him. That it just seems kind of like assholey, like really like, you know, well, F you, person watching this film. It's only going to be like, it's only like an 80-minute film. And it's kind of disgusting a little bit. And I kind of like it. You know, now Mike Myers, you mentioned Shrek, you mentioned some other stuff that he's done. He's not a young guy by any means. I mean,
no.
He had a guy named Dieter on a skit on SNL called Sprockets that I liked, where he played like this German guy. It was just kind of weird and different. So I liked how he approached it, comedy, a little differently than a lot of people. And as a kid watching Saturday Night Live going, man, this isn't as funny as it was in the early 80s. By the late 80s and 90s, it just, in SNL, we know hasn't been funny in over 20 plus years. It's a shame, because the big thing I was going to bring up to you is, okay, I don't hate Mike Myers at all. Don't love him. But I do think, of course, Wayne's World people will talk about, and I'm like, I think his highlight for me are these three films. And I go, you know what? What must it be like if you're tied to a character like this role and you can't get out of it, because it's the one thing that people seem to like from you so much? I mean, it seemed like, I don't know if he's pissed about it. I'm sure he's not, but that's where Goldmember to me kind of almost feels like it is. So can you imagine what that must be like to be so successful, but just be known to do this one thing that was kind of like a lark anyway? I mean, there's got to be like this bitterness, I would think, to it.
I imagine so, especially when he sees Ben Stiller just dealing it out. Ben Stiller is right around the same age as he is, and then Ben Stiller is still going strong, making movies. Even if there's dramas, like they're still good, like the Secret Life of Walter Mitty. He made money off of that, and that wasn't really a comedy. It was more like a drama stuff. Inspiring. Even though it had Sean Penn in there as a photographer.
Well, you and I have talked about comedians before and how they're not funny. So I mean, do you think Mike Myers is funny? I mean, do you like him, or do you just like these films and they happen to have him in it?
I want to say, like, I don't really know much about him. I know he's Canadian. I don't know what his political stances are. I really don't care to know what most people with their political stances. But I know that Hollywood is they're harsh to people, and once you kind of go away from the limelight, it's kind of hard to get a job. Like the reason that he got a movie because Saturday Night Live. He was funny on Saturday Night. People liked him. He was on a TV while, and the basically generation younger than me, they're like, oh, Mike Myers, he's Shrek.
Yeah.
Eddie Murphy, he's the donkey. And I think that's why Eddie Murphy the same thing. He kind of ruined his career by just doing that, because Eddie Murphy just started. I guess he just recently did a movie last year on Netflix. I don't know if it was any good or not, but I didn't watch it. But like I said, once you start, you go away from being on TV, you just start doing stuff like this. It's like, wow, it's like, Okay. Unless you got a good voice for it, like, unless your name's Rob, then you didn't get away with it. But I want to address Leander Graves' comments.
I was just gonna say, yeah, me
Yeah.
too. Yeah, go ahead.
Austin Powers of Deadpool. If it's current now, like you're saying, like as far as the movie versus movie, or you're talking about the characters. But I'll address this first with the movies. If Deadpool would have came out around the same time Austin Powers did, I don't think Deadpool would have been as funny because most people didn't really know who Ryan Reynolds was. Also, yeah, because Ryan Reynolds has just started doing the other show, Two Guys, a Girl, and a Pizza Place with Nathan Lane, or not Nathan Lane, Nathan Fillion. But same with Austin Powers competing against Deadpool today. Austin Powers would have came out today, it wouldn't have been as funny. It would have been so I'd say like watered down, more political, PC. It would have sucked. But characters.
The exact same movie came out though.
Yeah, but if they
I think a lot of people would think it's a lot dirtier.
I don't think it'd be dirty. I think it'd be less dirty. I don't think it would have even been made because I don't think people like his comedy now today. The kids are today. I don't think they care for Austin Powers stuff. I probably think it's dumb or stupid.
Well, I agree with you. I mean, that's kind of the whole point is that the sexist comedy stuff of him and a harmless little troll man character is kind of the whole thing. And so to me, I look at that and go, people today would be offended by that. The fembots.
Nobody. I'm surprised
shooting everything out of their boobs. Come on.
I'm surprised it hasn't been canceled.
Well,
no, but the characters versus each other, if they fought, of course Deadpool's gonna win. Deadpool he has immortality. He can regenerate.
Austin Powers is an international man of mystery. You can't defeat that.
Now, Deadpool has been known to be I don't know if you like people like to say he's bi, but I don't think Austin Powers would sleep with them. But but Austin Powers could use his charms of seduction.
Seduce them.
Yes.
That's right. He'd pull a Skyfall on him and try to, pretend like he's bi or something. It would be fun if
Welcome to my island, Mister. Welcome to my island, Mr. Bun.
No, it's like what would really be great is if they did a fourth one and Mike Myers, did an epic troll at everybody like Deadpool kind of did in his movies, where he would just take, like, say, the last 20 years of Bond films and just make it as completely dry, dull, and boring as possible, where it's not funny at all and it's extremely PC. That would be incredible. That would be awesome. If they did
a fourth one, have Ryan Reynolds in it. Ryan Reynolds could be an American agent that he has to deal with, and kind of like they did with the Bodyguard, that's a hit and miss, that movie with Samuel Jackson and him. Yeah. But you having him be in there, and then, like you said, they make fun of like GoldenEye.
Well, Deadpool brings up another area that I wanted to ask you about, because I know that you guys discuss some comics and graphic novels and all that have a much better angle than I do to discuss it. Now, when I saw the movie Deadpool, I was like, okay, it's okay. It's funny. It's funny enough. It's worth watching. But here's the thing. It's not like a great comedy to me because it's just very self-indulgent. You pop for a lot of stuff that gets said. I don't actually find the movie to be a movie that you can rewatch over and over and still find it funny, because all the references in there are great. When you hear them the first time.
It's the greatest romance story ever.
No, it's not.
It is.
And I think Austin Powers is more rewatchable than Deadpool. What do you think?
I'd say they're right around there. It depends, Austin Powers has a nostalgia feeling to it, but Deadpool has some scenes in it that still make you laugh. Now, do I say they compare it as being as bad as Wolverine Origins? Hell no, I'll never watch that movie again. That was horrible. But I liked the second one. I kind of like the second one better than the first one if I started Deadpool 2, because Deadpool 2, he does go back in time, and he just he shoots Ryan Reynolds and look at this whole script of Green Lantern. He's like, no. He just basically, he's like, and he's playing Cher's song, If I Could Turn Back Time. He's just going, he goes back, he goes back to the Wolverine Origins movie too. And you see, and you see Wolverine, you see Hugh Jackman's character, he's like, wait, is that you? He's like, he just shoots him in the head. He's like, hi, Wolverine.
Well, I think Ryan Reynolds definitely has a lot of fun with the character, and that's unfortunately the thing with
well,
comedies these days is that I don't think a lot of people have fun with the comedy. They just try
well,
to like outshout you and make a quick comment about something and or try to be woke, and it's just not funny today. So even if you watch Austin Powers and you find it juvenile not that funny, you can enjoy it because he's having fun with the character.
you also got to realize that Austin Powers isn't enough. He never breaks the fourth wall. Not that I remember. Where Wade Wilson, he knows he's a character in a movie and stuff. The whole point of the joke of this whole movie was he's making fun of Hugh Jackman, and he's making fun of Ryan Reynolds. He's making fun of himself. It's all satire. So,
Yeah, but is there any line out of Deadpool that you could just sit there and say it and everyone's gonna know exactly what you mean when you go, I'll stay.
come on.
That's not a woman, that's a man, baby.
He does have more. I say he does have more quotable lines than where Deadpool was all about violence. That's what it is. It's violence with a little bit of comedy and stuff in there. Austin Powers versus the Ninja Turtles. Why would they fight? He's like you pick the people. No offense, but you're picking people that are like, I don't think they'd ever meet or have a crossover.
Well, I don't know, but that's kind of an interesting,
Austin Powers. I think the Ninja Turtles would probably toss Vanilla Ice to them and Austin Powers, and we'd have a showdown between Austin Powers and Vanilla Ice.
Like, well, one thing I was gonna say, one thing I definitely agree with you on is the fact that a rewatchability factor in a comedy movie, I think, allows it to kind of be a bit better than it is. So even though I don't think of this movie or Goldmember or The Spy Who Shagged Me or any of those as being great individual films, the fact that you're going to rewatch them over and over, I think, actually does add a lot to it. And that's one thing I could definitely say about Austin Powers International Man of Mystery is that you can go back and rewatch it, whether or not you know the James Bond movies. And being a spoof, it treats the source material with enough respect where you get it and you just go, okay, it's not just one note jokes. There's a layer to a lot of the scenes that they build up to them, the secret underground layers, having a number two in charge and everybody having a unique kind of character to it, whether it's random task with the shoe or a lot of vagina and all that too, where
I need sharks with freaking lasers on their heads.
Sea bass mutated ill-tempered. Yeah, so final thoughts on Austin Powers.
For $1 million. Oh, 1 billion. I don't know, Leandra, you're watching along with us. You've probably seen this movie. Do you have any favorite parts from this movie at all? I know we're rattling off and all.
Yeah, it's hard to talk comedy, I think, sometimes too, but still. The problem with Bill Murray acting like Austin Powers in Ghostbusters is Bill Murray in the original Ghostbusters was probably peak Bill Murray. At some point, he just seems like he's tired of being thought of as the comedy guy, and he almost seems like he's a bit mean-spirited at some point when he wasn't like that before. Like if you saw Meatballs with him in it, you're like, oh, this Bill Murray guy's funny, and that we're going back to the 70s here. But Bill Murray, hopefully he'll turn on the charm in the Ghostbusters, which it got delayed. I know, Doctor, we were getting ready to cover that film. He is in the new movie, correct?
Yeah, all three of them were in the movie except for the guy who plays Harold Ramis, and he's dead.
Yeah. Okay. I'm looking forward to him because Bill Murray is one of those kind of spastic kind of guys, and he's an SNL guy, just like Mike Myers.
He's always been described as a person. If he doesn't like your script, he doesn't even return your calls. That's what Dan Aykroyd said this, and then Harold Ramis said this too, like about him. If he doesn't like, he says other people will always send him a script. And he has an email set up, and sometimes you're lucky. It's very rare if he actually responds to your stuff. He said if he doesn't like the script, he doesn't even bother responding back to it because he's he has so much crap coming in, and he's got money. He doesn't really need to go spend, make a movie.
Right.
So
hopefully his heart will be into it because Mike Myers, no matter what you can say, definitely is that way. I mean, so guys, I mean, look, I want to thank you all for listening. We normally don't do comedy films, even though we like them a lot. We've talked about some of ours on our top 10 Tuesdays. We've mentioned a lot of them recently. I'm looking forward to covering some more of them, but what better way to start off talking about comedy films than Austin Powers International Man of mystery.
All
Doctor,
right.
thank you for showing up tonight. Leandro, thanks for showing up tonight and sharing and listening in too. We got some more stuff coming up here, and we're going to have another new topic in about 15 minutes on Top 10 Tuesdays, which England Team from I Love Comics will be joining us, and we'll come up with Top 10 something, or we'll come up with something else if E's not around and it's just RDV and I. So thanks for listening, guys. Stay extreme. Final thought, RDV?
It's going to be a smashing time no matter what.
Yeah, baby. Yeah, baby. All right. Have a good night.